Wait a minute, so you're telling me that Marvel can say f in a movie, but I can't say f in a YouTube video? What gives? You know what? F this. I'm just gonna say f a whole bunch of times. What do you think about that, motherfucker? You're gonna bleep this out, aren't you?
Yeah.
We were gone for quite a while. But no matter what happens next, the galaxy still needs its guardians.
In Guardians of the Galaxy 3, we find the Guardians in a state of emotional disarray, especially Peter, who's still hurting over the loss of Gamora. Though she still exists, she doesn't remember him and is now with the Ravagers. But things take a turn when Adam Warlock attempts to kidnap Rocket and seriously wounds him in the process. This prompts the remaining Guardians to embark on a mission to save Rocket's life, leading them to discover the villainous plans of the High Evolutionary, who is a total dick who enjoys experimenting on living beings. You know, there are some Marvel movies that are entertaining but don't really stand out. They're fun, but they're mostly filler. This is not one of those Marvel movies. This is an entirely different box of cheese. I haven't been this excited about a movie in the MCU in a very long time. And knowing that this was James Gunn's last Marvel franchise film made it all the more bittersweet. So first off, it's very heartfelt and very emotional. During this movie, we see Rocket's backstory play out with the help of flashbacks, which isn't super original, but boy does it work. It's almost like a twisted Pixar movie on its own. It's tragic, it's cute, and you immediately understand why Rocket is the way that he is. It's something that always has been hinted at, but now we finally get to see it. I also really like that the universe isn't at stake here. It's still very dramatic, but the movie is basically one long rescue mission. It doesn't overcomplicate the plot. In fact, this is one of my small issues I had with the movie. The character Adam Warlock isn't complicated at all. He's oversimplified. I really like that character, but he didn't really need to be in this movie. At the ending of Guardians 2, Adam Warlock was teased, and I thought he was going to be the next big villain. Which he kinda is, but he's more like a goon, and he's comically dumb. He's like Vision if Vision had the intellect of Drax. Speaking of which, just like in Guardians 2, Dave Bautista really stood out. Every time I laughed was because of him.
Come on, Drax. Seriously, dude?
No! Ow!
Because this movie is incredibly funny, and it's that particular brand of James Gunn humor I really like. Guardians of the Galaxy 3 is also the first MCU film to feature an F-bomb, which feels like a goodbye gift from Marvel to Gunn. And the joke actually worked as well.
Push the button. It looks like you're pushing the keyhole.
The what?
There's a button under the handle. Press that in.
Okay. Now what?
Open the door.
I'm a giant fan of James Gunn, and I know he's now fixing DC's broken cinematic universe, but I really wish he would make another horror film. For those of you who haven't seen it, go watch Slither. It stars Nathan Fillion, Elizabeth Banks, and Michael Rooker, and it's just the best. But just like the Rocket storyline, it's not all shits and giggles. I especially like the totally different chemistry between Gamora and the rest of the Guardians, especially Quill. So we all know that the Gamora of this timeline is dead, and in case you didn't know, here's Quill explaining it in a nutshell.
She was my girlfriend, only she doesn't remember it because it wasn't her. Because her dad threw her off a magic cliff and she died, and then I lost my temper and nearly destroyed half the universe. And she came back out of the past. There she is. Everyone else who died in the past stayed dead, not her. Why? Was it the magic cliff? I don't know. That's some freaking Infinity Stone scientist.
This Gamora is a lot more ruthless, but the dynamic between her and Peter is interesting. Everyone who's gone through a rough breakup can see themselves in Quill. That painful moment when you first see each other after a really long time and you don't seem to recognize the other person because of how different they've become, yeah, I felt that. What I also felt was the soundtrack. I've said it before, I'm in my 40s, I'm Gen X, which means the music of my era is the best. And the soundtrack of this film is a whole bunch of great 80s and 90s songs. There's this one long hallway fight set to the tune of No Sleep Till Brooklyn by the Beastie Boys. And apart from that kick-ass soundtrack, that fight sequence is impressive. While the movie is heavy on the CG, it's still creative, and it feels a lot more tangible than Marvel's previous film Quantumania, where everything felt a little bit more generic. So before you ask, I did not see any post-credit scenes. I don't know about other press screenings, but here in Amsterdam, Disney came out and said, we didn't want to spoil big things. So when the movie was over, it just cut to black. There wasn't even a scroll of the cast and crew. So yeah, that never happened before. James Gunn's departure from the MCU is kind of a loss. This trilogy has been some of my favorite Marvel movies in the past decade. I thought Guardians of the Galaxy 3 was spectacular, emotional, and very funny. So of course, I highly recommend this movie. Go see it with your friends and enjoy the f***ing post-credit scenes. I'm just gonna go take a wild guess at what the post-credit scenes might have been. So seeming that it's such a big deal they can't show it to the Dutch press, I'm gonna guess it has something to do with Wolverine or the X-Men. Now we just have to wait, I guess.